This video is about building the African Queen, building one from scratch using a 3D printer and comparing it against the African Queen model by Billings, a very popular boat model. The 3D model is a closer representation to the African Queen in the movie. I'll show you the details of the models and their comparisons. This is my latest model. It's all scratch built, designed in 3D software. All the parts are 3D resin printed. The characters were developed by me. All the parts are designed to look like the movie made famous by Hepburn and Bogart. I'll take this canvas top off. Let's take a closer look at the boat. In the front of the boat, you have the winch and anchor, which was in the movie. There's a life preserver. There are boxes of Gordon gin, and there are crates with the gelatin plastic explosives in some tanks that were used as part of the movie. There's a wood bin that has the wood for the boiler. And there's the boiler. You can see a gauge and the other parts. And the boiler opened on the front of the boiler in the movie. The boiler has a steam whistle on the front, and there's a lamp on the front. You'll see that the steam whistle has a rope that goes down and then up to the mast and then went to the back of the boat and kind of hung there. It wasn't portrayed too much in the movie. There's a steam tube that runs back to the steam engine. The steam engine, of course, which drives the propeller. In the movie, it wasn't really hooked up to anything. It just was there for looks and spinning. You can see the green box, and it has Miss Rose's umbrella, basket, and her Bible, the tea kettle. And under the green box was the engine that actually drove the ship. And then there's Mr. Allnut, played by Humphrey Bogart. And then there's, of course, Miss Rose, Katharine Hepburn. Details on the back of the boat. These are based off the movie, too. It was a steel boat, so there were ribs and bolts along the inside of the boat. In the book, it also was a steel boat. The boards on the side of the boat, on the deck, were supposed to be boards, I guess, for loading and unloading cargo off the boat. I also think they were designed to hold the cameras while they were filming the movie. The boat deck was all printed as one part. I'll show you some pictures of how the boat was printed. On the back of the boiler, you can see there's a small faucet, and there's a turnoff valve on the side of the boiler. And then there was a steam pipe that went down to the bottom of the deck on the back of the steam engine. And that went through the bottom of the deck and came out the side of the hull because they had to release the steam while they were operating during the movie. So they let it go out the side of the boat. But I didn't add it to the boat. On the front of the boiler, you can see some piping turnoff valves. This was where they filled the teapot in the movie. Here's a look at the front of the bow. There was some kind of bracket on the front of the boat. I think they used that to tow the boat when they needed to. Here's a closer look at the winch from this angle here. I used brass rods on the frame on the back of the boat, and the parts holding the frame together are just resin printed parts. And then, of course, the top is just a piece of fabric, and it just kind of sits on there. The boiler and the steam engine in the green box are also going to be available online as STL files. So if you have a 3D printer, you can print your own parts. You can reduce them, enlarge them if you're making a build from scratch. If you're doing a Billings model, you can print them out at 1/12 scale. Characters are available for the Billings boat at 1/12 scale. I'll cover that later on in the video. 3D design work. I used Shaper 3D software to design the boat and all the different parts on the decks. I knew some overall dimensions of the original boat. By using the movie and an artist's eye, I was able to reference the size and all the details of the parts on the boat. And in the program, I reduced my characters to that size so I could check proportions as I worked. The 3D program by Shaper is very flexible. By using the cutaway tool, you can get inside to see how things are fitting. In this view, you can see the hollow spaces in the design. I designed the boat to be a little shorter than the actual real boat in order to fit inside my 3D printer. 3D resin printing the model. I printed the hull in two sections, a bow section and a stern section. I printed the hull by supporting it by the bow, so when I brought the two halves together, it would be smooth for gluing. Here's a picture of all the parts before assembly. The boiler, the steam engine, the green box, seats, all the other objects on top of the deck were printed separately and were glued down with superglue. I used superglue to bring the two halves of the hulls together. I used this flexible modeling paste to fill any gaps or cracks in the hull. Painting the model. I used my 3D software to print a pattern for the deck. I then painted the deck area all black. I then used the mask to protect the deck while I gave a primer to the outside and inside of the boat. Then the next step was starting to do the detail paint job inside the boat and on the outside of the boat. I used this kind of cotton rope in order to add rope to the side of the boat. I first stained the rope a darker brown in order to get the color. I used the channel I had created on the side of the boat to hold the rope and used super glue. I glued it as I went, allowing some of the rope to sag down to replicate how it looked in the movie. This is a close-up picture of the decals I created using Photoshop. I used decal film on my inkjet printer to print the decals. Most of the deck items I spray painted with a flat black, and then I used a silver paint and a dry brush effect to create a metal-looking steam engine. I then added the copper paint and the green paint. Comparing the Billings model. The Billings model is a wonderful model. It's 1/12 scale, which makes it ideal for RC control boats. All the details and the parts are outstanding on the boat. Some have even built little steam engines that actually work and put them in the Billings boat. You can find some of these on YouTube. They're pretty impressive. The only thing that most people notice is the boiler is a very tall, slender boiler compared to the movie. That's why I created a shorter, fatter one for mine. And the steam engine doesn't match the one in the movie. These are the items that are different than my 3D scratch-built model. And then I added the green box in order to complete the set to match the movie. And the model does not come with characters. The older boxes, like the one here, show that there are characters, but they didn't come in the model that I have. I created the characters, or the figures, for the boat. I made them available online, and several model builders have used them. They are now going to be available as STL files, so if you have a 3D printer, you can print your own. These are the figures that will fit the Billings model at 1/12 scale. This is Miss Rose with her hand in a position to match up with the tiller arm. In this version, she has her hands on her lap, so you don't have to worry about trying to match it to the tiller. Mr. Allnut, in this version, is standing surveying the situation. His hands in the back are a position where you can add a rag to his hands if you want to. And in this version, he has his hand out. It was designed originally to match up with the Billings model control handle for the steam engine, but I can't guarantee it's going to match up exactly, but there are opportunities that you can use it for. Here is the boiler design. I designed these to be printed in a 3D printer. They may or may not be able to be printed with a string printer or another type of printer. These are printed on my 3D resin printer, and of course they have great detail. The boiler comes with these 4 parts. There's the boiler bolt plate, the steam hose that connects to the steam engine, and the smokestack. I did the boiler and the smokestack in 2 pieces in order to make it fit into my 3D printer. The boiler parts are 4 different STL files. This is what it looks like with a 1/12 character next to it. The character does not come with the STL files. This is how I printed the boiler on my 3D printer. You can see some of the supports. I do not provide STL files with supports. There's too many variables and too many different 3D printers out there. This shows the 3D STL file as a cutaway, so you can see the part that's hollow and the smokestack is hollow. And the smokestack gets printed upside down in order to keep the parts that go together smooth. And it lines up in the smokestack and in the pipe for the steam whistle. This shows the steam engine printed from my resin printer. It shows the 1/12 scale with the character. The figure does not come with the STL file. The steam engine is solid except for a couple of hollow areas. One is on the top with drain holes, and then there's a hollow bottom. The steam engine does not come with supports. That's up to you. The green box, or the cabinet. If you notice in the movie, it looked more like a cabinet with doors that open on the side, and there was handles that looks like they could lift up the whole cabinet, probably in order to get to the engine to make adjustments during the movie. The tops look like they flipped open. Here's what the 3D resin printed cabinet looks like at 1/12 scale. The figure is not included. Here's what the STL file looks like. You'll find more information on the green cabinet online. Also, the personal items of Miss Rose comes with her umbrella, Bible, and basket as an STL file, and also comes with the teapot. The anchor and winch that was in the movie does not come with the Billings model. So I created one in 1/12 scale for people who wanted to add that to their models. Again, I used the movie as reference. The character in the background, of course, is not included in the STL files. Here's a look at the winch as an STL file and the anchor. So whether you're building a Billings model or whether you're building a model from scratch, you'll find a link in the description of where to get the STL files to print your own. These videos become dated, so the information I put on may change over time. Always look in the description to find the latest information. My STL files are for your personal use only. Please, no commercial use or public sharing of the 3D models. See cults3d.com for complete details. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Good luck and happy modeling.